Yeah, I mean, I can just sort of talk from my own experience of the days that I bike into the office. I genuinely feel happier and more productive and more focused. So, and I think as a life hack, I love the fact that I'm managing to integrate some exercise into my commute time, particularly, if you're a busy parent and a professional. And I think it's one of the best kept secrets in terms of a life hack, a daily life hack.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Active Towns channel. My name is John Simmerman, and that is Juliet Scott-Croxford, President of Brompton USA. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the new and exciting lines of Bromptons that have recently come out, and also the role that the Brompton, that incredible folding bike that you all see me ride all around the world, can really have in helping displace short trips that are typically taken in as a single occupancy motor vehicle. So it's super exciting stuff. But before we dive into that, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Hey, it's super easy to do. Right here on YouTube, just click on the support button or the join button right down below and join the YouTube membership environment. You will have early and ad-free access to all the video content, or you can just click on the Active Towns link at activetowns.org. Click on the support tab at the top of the page, and there's several different options. Okay, let's get right to it with Juliet. Juliet, thank you so much for joining me on the Active Towns podcast.
Thanks for having me, John. It's great to be here.
So, Juliet, one of the things I love doing with my guests here on the podcast is to give you the floor for the first 30 seconds or so. Who the heck is Juliet?
Thank you. I'm Juliet Scott-Croxford. I'm president for the Americas region for Brompton, which is the iconic folding bike company from the UK that originated in 1975. Live in New York, in Westchester County. Although you can tell from my accent that I didn't originate from New York. Grew up in Southeast UK, lived in London for a number of years before relocating to New York in 2016.
I love hearing the backstory. How on earth did you land at Brompton?
It's a good question. So in my head, it's definitely more of a zigzag in my career path, but it made a lot of logical sense to me. My background was in technology, consulting, strategy, and business change. And I was advising for a number of years across a number of different industries, and then went deep in the media and entertainment sector at a point when there was a huge amount of disruption going on through emerging tech in that sector. And when I was working for The Guardian, I relocated to New York, and then subsequently took on a CEO role for another media brand, which was a turnaround digital transformation, but very much about focusing on building communities for a high net worth audience. And one of our key content pillars and a lot of the events that we did focused on sustainable cities. And during that time, I actually invited Will Butler-Adams, our CEO, on an event that we were doing, which was literally just through COVID and what the new normal looks like for cities. So we got to know one another. Brompton is a brand and product that I've sort of known and loved, and is fairly iconic when you're in London. It's a very normal thing to see as part of the fabric, like a red bus or a mailbox. But yeah, so when I was talking to Will, we stayed in touch. And about a year later, he said, actually, we're looking for a new regional lead director to build the growth and awareness of Brompton in the North America region. So I threw my hat in. I was like, I haven't got much experience on supply chain and logistics. Fast forward 4 or 5 years, I've now got quite a lot of experience on supply chain and logistics. But at the time, I was really focused on, okay, how we build a brand, how we expand through omni-channel, how we expand both distribution from a wholesale point of view, but also from an e-commerce and own and operated retail point of view. So I took on the role 4.5 years ago. And it's been a wild ride. It still, remains to be, I think, a fantastic product and transformative for people's lives. And when you talk to people in the Brompton community, they'll attest to that. That was all off the back of quite a challenging time in the bike industry. We had this huge boom, as you know, through COVID, and then the industry has gone through an incredibly tough time since. However, we've really tried to kind of appeal to an audience that don't just class themselves as cyclists, but people that want to move around their city in a different way and in a more sustainable way and in a more active way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And you mentioned Will Butler Adams, who has been on the channel before. Here's him. You're kind of talking a little bit about the history and how he came to it. And I think that it was around this time when Brompton had hit, a pretty major milestone in terms of the 1 millionth bicycle, I think, had just rollen off the lines. And so he was super, super stoked to share that information about that. And then I had the opportunity to brush shoulders with him at the Velocity conference there in Europe soon after. And he and I were talking after his keynote presentation about how incredibly important it is for the bicycle industry to get engaged with trying to help cities, help encourage cities, help spread the awareness within communities of how important it is to create safer, more inviting bicycling environments to really be able to leverage what we're going to be talking about, which is an incredible tool in the tool chest, in the toolbox that people can, reach for and be able to get to meaningful destinations under their own power or with a little bit of electric assist.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because while Europe and Asia and probably many of the markets that you visited on bike, they've adopted cycling as a form of regular transportation. Statistics show that less than 1% of commuters in the USA do so by bike. And about 50% of biking here is recreational. So it's quite a different mindset, I would say, culturally, to encourage people to bike in the USA, particularly as a day of life and an active day of life. And I think there is such an important connection with how safe and how well biking infrastructure and protected bike lanes are created in cities to be able to assist with that shift to a more, healthy, positive, sustainable way of living and in an urban environment. So, I think I would say that Brompton is really the original city bike. We were a city bike before, city bike existed. Right from its inception in 1975, our inventor, Andrew Ritchie, really invented this sort of iconic folding bike to really try and revolutionize not just bike manufacturing, but also mobile active transportation. And sort of fast forward now, 50 years later, from, commuters to adventurers to athletes to A-listers, I guess Brompton's built an incredibly passionate following, obsessed with this balance of both function and quality and style through, our standard 16-inch wheel folding bike, which we now have a 20-inch wheel version, which is a slightly larger one, which I think is made for this market, but also through electric as well. So really thinking about actually how can folding, the ability for this portable folding bike, unlock that multimodal first last mile, and now with electric sort of first and last 5 miles, if you like, because you do tend to kind of go a lot further with it.
Yeah, you just mentioned, the 1975 edition, and again, 50 years. I mean, that's a huge milestone that the bike company is celebrating here. And this is a throwback. This is like a nod, a hat tip to that 1975 edition. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but yeah, this is super cool. I didn't expect to see this on the website. Talk a little bit more about what this bike is all about, because it is that hat tip to the original bike.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a nod, like from all of its features and the serial plate. And actually, we only made 1,975 of these bikes. So there's only,
Nice round number. Yeah. No
exactly. So
significance.
exactly. And there's some really lovely details on it, in terms of, the colorways that we've used and some of the original colors that link back to some of our original models. So yeah, this was launched in September, really to commemorate our 50th anniversary. And yeah, I mean, it's proven extremely popular, and actually, going into the new year, we're going to be doing a tour with our with some of our original bikes to really celebrate that. Not too dissimilar to the millionth bike tour that I think Will probably shared with you a bit about when we produced the 1 millionth Brompton a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. And you're right. There's such it's been wonderful being a part of this family. I got my Brompton, which is kind of over my shoulder there. You can just see the top of the Brooks saddle there in the background by my
Very
plant.
nice.
I've been a
What do
Brompton
you
owner.
ride, John?
So
What is it?
it's like from 15 years ago. So it's like the original, sort of
Hmm.
line. And I've since done some component replacement on it and fine tuned it and everything. But it literally travels everywhere I go. So I just got back from a 2-week trip to Colorado. It was with me. If I'm not in this environment filming videos and interviews in this format, I'm on my bike doing on-bike interviews.
Love
And
it.
it is my filming equipment internationally. It's traveled with me over to Europe multiple times. And yeah, it was really super fun to be, in London filming, near its
I can imagine.
birthplace,
Yeah.
and then seeing a whole bunch of other folks there. But you mentioned family, and I wanted to kind of point that out, is that it was really, really fun to become a part of the Brompton family. I actually helped get at the time, a bike shop in Hawaii established as a Brompton dealer. And, Laura and I purchased the first 2 bikes from him to get that established. That shop is no longer in existence. So I don't think that there is a Brompton dealer on that particular island right now. But it's neat when you're riding around and you see that sense of family that takes place. Talk a little bit about that, because that doesn't happen with, I don't think, any other brand of bike where you have that sense of family.
No, and there's a real sense of, you're absolutely right. There's a real sense of familiarity globally with a Brompton. Wherever you are, if you pass someone on one, there's a nod, or there's a ding of your bell, or if you're at the traffic light, obviously people like to stop and talk to you. But I mean, our community is everything, and it's genuinely authentic and organically driven, which I think is what makes it so special. So, I think probably originally it was a bit of a happy accident that this kind of cult-like following built around this wonderful, folding product bike. And now we distribute across over 40 countries globally, and there are Brompton owners, and what we call our Brompton community across all of the key cities across the world. And we have a combination of we have in the US about 100 retailers that distribute our products, and some of those are independent bike shops, some of those are larger kind of national multi-store retailers, but the retailers really know the bike well, and they know their city very well, and they know their customer. And I think that sense of having somewhere to go and someone talk very familiarly and kind of expertly on the bike is very special. But also for the community, I think there is a sense of kind of relationships are built, particularly through COVID. Meetups kind of were self-organized, and people met up, and a lot of it's combating loneliness, and just having fun. I think the just riding a Brompton with others that know the brand and also have a passion for it, there's so much fun and joy that can be born out of it when, life is often way too serious, I think. So, yeah, the community is very special, and honestly, they really feed into how we evolve the product and what we do next. And they love to bespoke their bikes and put little trinkets on it. We do the Brompton World Championships every year. We're doing the next one in Shanghai at the end of this month, which I'm going to be at. So yeah, it's just extraordinary to go to some of those larger events and see, how how passionate and how much of a following that Brompton has, which I don't think you can force. I genuinely think it is about, both the quality of the product, the feeling that it brings you, and the stories that the community has, but also. I think a sense of sort of belonging, if you like, and then a sense of familiarity wherever you go in the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we see that, this is a quick little map. We can zoom in on the map here. These are the stores in New York City itself. And we see the fact that we've got a Gold Star store that's identified in here. Is that the Brompton Junction experience of the Gold Star? The Gold Star?
That is, where are we looking here? So we have an accreditation. Yeah, so we've got an owned retail store in Washington DC,
Ah, okay, got it. Yep.
and we have one on Bleecker Street, which
Boom,
we've
that one
just.
there. Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly. And then we have gold, silver, bronze retailers depending on their, the product that they carry, and the volume they sell, and also how they present the product and how they engage with the community, and, how they're doing servicing and things like that. So, yeah, we've got an expansive network of retailers across the globe, and about 100 in the US. I would say 50 that are very active, that we're really trying to sort of hone in on. You're looking at oh yeah, and then of REI, we're across about 50 of their doors as well. Yeah, obviously that's a national retailer. We do still have a retailer in Hawaii, but I don't know what island it's on actually,
It's
so I need to check that.
most likely it would be on Oahu. The
Yes, I think you're right.
90% of the population is on Oahu and Honolulu. You and I can talk later about how I can help sell more bikes there on island, because I find it being one of the best types of flexible bikes that really goes well with people who also are into boats and sailboats and yachts. The ability to like roll into a port and then be able to unfold your bike and take off, and I think that's just brilliant. Yeah, this particular shop that I'm honing in on here is literally walking distance from my house, and so
Oh, cool.
this is my local bike shop, and I'm able to just walk down there and take a look at it. So I walked down and took a look at the G line when the G line was recently released. This is you rolling along the waterfront here with the G line. This is pretty special because this is like a step beyond what we typically think about when we think about Brompton. Walk us through the decision to do the G line and what is the real market that we're looking to achieve with this bike?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely our most versatile bike yet. So it was really designed to go beyond just the city and allow anyone to go off road and on trails. And it's got obviously thicker, stable tires. It's got a 20-inch wheel. It's 8 speed. The sizing is slightly different. So it comes in small, medium, large. Hydraulic disc brakes. Anyone that rides it is like, God, it just feels like a regular bike, and it's really intended to kind of go that bit further. And you can take it on gravel. I think for this market, certainly for some, the barrier of the 16-inch wheel and people not seeing themselves on that was a bit of a challenge. So I think this has really opened us up to also lean more into that recreational market as well, of people that may want to throw throw the bike in the back of their car and go off an adventure at the weekend with a friend or a loved one and explore trails or gravel. So it's really intended to be that much more versatile. And then this month, we've also just launched our G-Line Electric, which is a really special e-bike. I'd say it's an e-bike first, but actually it happens to fold. And that's fantastic. And actually that's the first one that we've built to a US spec. So it's at 20 miles per hour rather than 15, UL certified from a battery point of view. So that's been incredibly exciting to see launch in this market.
Yeah, yeah, and we've got that on screen right now, and we can see that it looks like it's coming in at a base price of $49.50, currently out of stock, but that's probably because you probably sold out of your first run of them, I would
You're
think.
absolutely right. We did, which is a nice problem to have. And yeah, we've got more incoming. So and then a number of our retailers across the country also have these in their stores as well. So you can look on the store locator on the website and find a retailer near you if you want to go and test ride
Yeah,
it as
and
well.
they may actually have one in stock. This is the online store that we were just looking at there. So that's very, very exciting. I can't wait to give the G line a try. Honestly, I have found over the last 15 years with my Brompton that it handles remarkably well on gravel roads and natural surface roads, and I've even joked and saying, "Yeah, I'm going to take it on, the pump track and the kids' bike parks," because I, especially so many years of riding it, I'm very, very confident and competent on it, and I just find that it's deceptively stable for those 16-inch wheels. A lot of times you mentioned it, it's kind of the perception of people feeling like and not seeing themselves. I find it to be like riding any other bike. And since I'm oftentimes, yeah.
I do too. I mean, my go-to ride is the four-speed T-line because I commute into Grand Central and then I'm whipping around New York and Brooklyn, and it's incredibly light and it's fast. And so for me, when you're kind of walking up and down the stairs at the train station and throwing it above your head on the train and things like that, that's a really sort of easy one for me. But I agree. I think if you're used to it, that barrier is less of a thing. I think the intention with the G line was really to kind of break out and appeal to people that wouldn't necessarily think of Brompton as something for them. And it sort of has that extra stability with it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely sort of trying to reach a new audience. And I think given that sort of, recreational audience that we have in the US as well, and particularly in cities, some of the more hilly mountainous cities like Denver or Boulder or Park City um, and the Northwest like Seattle and Portland and San Fran. I think it's just a really great addition to our catalogue, if you like, and it sort of starts to sort of go beyond just about being a commuter bike.
I like that too because that point that you're making, that you're kind of leaning in on this being sort of like it's like an electric bike first, a folding bike second, or this concept of being able to say, hey, yeah, you're going to be able to extend your range, get up some of those steep hills, and that's really what we're seeing in the bike industry, and what I'm seeing in communities globally is that we're seeing the electric assist as being just a barrier breaker and taking away friction points for people who would not otherwise ride. Suddenly they're like, oh, I can do this. This opens up my world for me, and I can do this trip now. And I think that's really, really exciting for the future. And it's great to see Brompton getting into that game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the folding bike makes commuting easier by letting people bike part of their journey and then fold the bike, whether it's for public transit or office storage or whatever. And I think it reduces that burden of needing to find somewhere to park it or store it or lock it up and then be, worried about theft or safety or, time. I think it's a real convenience factor as well. But there's this amazing stat that the daily trips in the US are like the majority of them are under 3 miles. The majority of car trips. So I think if a Brompton or any bike can make these quick trips convenient, even with train delays or bus detours, it really does make sense. And I think us introducing the electric model, the intention there was to help riders tackle longer commutes or more hilly terrain, or make cycling a more realistic alternative to driving. To reduce that kind of car dependency in cities. But as you know, I think there are some cities that are really starting to embrace it in this country. And I think there's probably some cities that are less likely to embrace it. When you kind of compare it to some of the European cities or Asian cities. But I think there are some cities that have made some fantastic progress. There's just still a long way to go,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and one of the things that I try to emphasize too is that when a bicycle brand can create products that really address the needs of people who are not already riding currently, that's a huge market, because when we look at the data, the stats, it's somewhere between 50 and 70% of people, say that they would ride if it felt safer to do so. And so, it's like that partnership of building a product that can help with some of those 3-mile routes, those shorter car trips. And so having a functional and pragmatic option for mobility, and then having safer environments within the communities. And that's kind of gets back to what Will and I were talking about there at VeloCity, was that concept of really trying to help embrace and help support cities to try to transform their built environments into safer, more inviting environments. It's going to be good for everybody. It's a win-win-win all the way around, including bike builders that are building wonderful, comfortable, pragmatic, I like to say comfortable upright bicycles that you can wear your normal clothing in and make it to your destination. You're dressing for your destination, not your journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also there's that real obvious benefit that we feel and experience through riding our Bromptons, and not just from a, I guess, convenience factor, but also from a happiness and health factor. And I think when you aggregate that data for a city, there's some extraordinary stats around how it can help reduce chronic stress and mental health, and how it can combat loneliness. And when you're looking at some of the data from that recent MAHA report around the physical activity decline in youth in this country, and 70, I think it's something like more than 70% of kids don't meet daily physical activity recommendations. And I think the US kids rank 47th out of 50 countries in aerobic fitness. And there's we've got a challenge with diabetes, and you just kind of start to aggregate all of that data up. I'm not sure we've done the best job at then articulating it from what are the health benefits and the economic benefits of creating better cycling infrastructure and encouraging people to move in this way.
Yeah, I like to point to this and say that it's not just one thing. It's not the public health benefit. It's not just one thing. It's not the benefit to the environment and climate change. It's beneficial across an entire spectrum of things. And you mentioned it earlier, addressing some of the loneliness epidemic issues that we have. And we do see that in communities that embrace cycling and active mobility at high levels, we see that level of cohesiveness within communities. There's like the familiar stranger that you run into on your bike commute that you just kind of like do a head nod or whatever, a wave, and it's like it helps combat the loneliness aspect of where we're at. And we do see that level of intervention or interaction that we have within people who are riding bikes. And there's been some great data out of the Netherlands that look at the fact that you have all this sort of body language communication that's happening out there. I want to go back to this image that we had up earlier, which is the Brompton lines. Now, earlier you mentioned the T line. We were just talking about the G line. Mine is an old one, so it's similar to the C line. But why don't you just walk through each of these real quickly of the lines of Bromptons that are out there right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll go from left to right. So C line is our classic, original fold, if you like. So that is steel. It also comes in electric. It comes in the widest range of different colorways as well, and all of them have kind of three different handlebar types, so low, medium, and high. Obviously, all of them fold in under 20 seconds. So the fold is the kind of the consistent thing throughout all of these. And yeah, I'd say C line is kind of the original, if you like, which is the one that you have, I think, John, by the sounds of it. And then we have the G line, which we just talked about, which is our larger wheel, 20-inch, really designed to kind of be more versatile and go beyond the city and, go on trails and gravel. T line are all titanium. So that happens to be obviously a lot lighter. So it's around 15 pounds, and that comes in a 4-speed and a 12-speed. Then you've got the P line, which is lighter weight than the C line. So if you kind of think, okay, C line and then P line, so some aspects of it are titanium, but it's a super light, but not quite as light as the T line. And again, that comes in a 4 and a 12-speed and also in electric. And then A line is our entry level model. So we start retailing at around, I think it's 1250, 1300, I think. And so A line is kind of your sort of starter one, if you like. And then it goes up from there. And then obviously we have the electric. We have actually just announced our upgrade on our electric models for our C line, P line, and soon to be T line as well. So that's exciting, and it will be in market in the US at the end of January. So yeah, those are the lines. Obviously, all have that kind of unique fold to it,
Right. Yeah,
and all do in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Well, as somebody who's turned 60 years old and has been lugging my C line for many years, that 15 pounds of the T line sounds very attractive. That's an extraordinary accomplishment, I think.
Yeah, no, it is. And the innovation was extraordinary with it. I mean, I think the more you talk to people and understand, what the benefits are of the bike, the weight comes up a lot. And it is that kind of combination of portability and power. And I think obviously layering an electric, the power aspect is incredibly important, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to compromise the portability too much. So this is the T line that you're seeing now on the screen, and I think it's the one that I ride the most, and I absolutely love it. And I think actually it feels like it works very well for New York City. That's actually my commute in the morning going over that bridge, and then. That comes in a 4 and a 12-speed. But I find for like a city that's fairly flat, I 4-speed works for me. I think if I was in San Francisco, I'd probably want a 12-speed, but yeah.
Well, that was going to be my question for you. So my original, the classic, is I have the 6 speed, and I have it geared 12% lower so that I can carry the heavy loads. Because when I'm traveling, I typically, when I take off traveling, like this summer, when you and I were trying to coordinate in New York City, I was traveling by Brompton and Amtrak. And so I was hitting multiple cities. I've got all my luggage. I attach all my luggage to the Brompton, get off the train, go to my hotel or my Airbnb or wherever I'm staying, attending the conferences and doing, profiles of cities, whatnot. So I found that having that 12% lower gearing was fantastic with 6 gears. It sounds like the titanium with 12 gears is going to totally meet my needs.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I would have thought so. And we do the 12-speed in CP and T. So you could try all of them, and P is obviously a bit lighter than the one that you've got. Obviously, with a bit more gearing, it will add a little bit of weight. But I would have thought so. Yeah, I would encourage you to do a demo on 12-speed T line, maybe. Because it is super fun, and as you know, I mean, you can attest to this. Traveling with them is super easy. You can throw it in the overhead bin if you're flying, or check it in, and it's a joy to be able to come out of a train station or a airport and just be able to unfold and go. And I think that's the other thing, is the attachments that come with it, like the accessories and the bags, because you can actually fit quite a lot in those bags that clip on the front of the bike.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I tell people, I do produce some videos about traveling with my Brompton and how I accomplished that. So I encourage people to go to my Brompton playlist. You can see how I've packed my bags. I'm currently working on a more detailed version of how I actually travel by train and by plane with my Brompton, and so that is forthcoming. But I also point out that I'm not traveling light. Laura, my partner, she jokes with me. She's like, "You are not a light traveler," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm carrying a whole bunch of camera gear with me because I've got just not only my camera gear, my cameras, but I also have all my wireless lavalier microphones that are, out there producing this stuff." And I tell people, it's a workhorse. It's a
Yeah,
fantastic
absolutely.
bike for this purpose. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the appeal. It's most people do their research before choosing a Brompton, because it's not, it's on the higher end from a price point of view. However, when you start to understand the way it's made, and there is a lot of aspects of it which are literally handmade in London. It's not manufactured in a low cost manufacturing market. It's actually in London, which is one of the more expensive places to manufacture, and our factories in West London, in Greenford, so beyond Ealing and out, as though you're going towards Heathrow Airport. But we've got such an elite team of engineers and brazers that ensure every detail is focused on and not overlooked. And I think whether it's from the ingenious folding system or the accessories that attach and the panniers, but uh, yeah, I mean, you also know when you're doing your research that the quality of it, and you've got the 7-year warranty. It's a product that lasts you a lifetime, and you can also, it's relatively easy to maintain. And a lot of people I've speak to have had theirs for 30 years. So I like to kind of think a bit about it as actually it's a sort of something that lives with you and grows with you. And as we're still, making sure that when we're having kids and things, they know how to ride a bike. I like to kind of think, okay, when are my sons going to have their first Brompton, and maybe I'll hand one of mine down to them. But yeah, I think that quality piece, when you start to research it, it's whilst it's quite expensive, you're like, actually, it's good value for money. It's an investment choice.
Yeah, yeah. And we're looking at some video here of the actual manufacturing process. And Will and I talked a little bit about, the ethic and the commitment that the company has to sustainability. And you just mentioned there that these things are built to last. And so it is assumed that this is going to be passed down to the next person, or, whether I, sell mine to somebody I've already had multiple people say, when are you going to sell yours and buy a new one? So I want it. But talk a little bit about that ethic that you all have as a company to sustainability and the environmental approach, and really how your company is structured to being good stewards, within the industry and within the global business market too.
Yeah, I mean, we're certified B Corp, so we certified as a B Corp a few years ago, and that, I mean, anyone that's gone through that process knows that, it's very data driven. So you have to demonstrate where you are, and you get a score, but you also have to maintain your score because you get rescored every couple of years. So that notion of us not being just for profit, but also for people and the planet, is incredibly important. I would say the sustainability aspect of what we stand for is very much inbuilt in the DNA of the company and the DNA of the product. But I think what the B Corp does is really keeps you honest and true with that mission, and it has, forced us to really look at everything through, our supply chain and logistics. And we're by no means perfect, but you also identify, okay, where can we improve? And I think with that notion of, well, they're built to last. So we're not trying to be sort of mass consumerism. Many owners report that their bikes function well beyond 20 years, and the frame is extremely durable. But I also think one of the things that we've done, and we've really sort of driven from this market, is our renewed program. So obviously, as a retailer, you naturally get returns and you get damaged products, but there's it might be a blemish or a scratch. There's really nothing wrong with it, or we have very expert mechanics that and retailers that know how to rebuild or refurbish a bike. So to your point about when are you going to sell it, the second hand market is actually quite hot for Brompton, and our renewed program was really designed to refurb bikes, and sell them, obviously at a slightly lower discount, some around, I think, under 1,000. But that was really designed to kind of, from a reuse and sort of circular point of view, so that we're not just wasting product. So that kind of, I think, really speaks to the sort of core of what we stand for as well from a sustainability point of view.
I love that. It's the whole recycle a bike mantra of, yeah, let's do that. And I will, and I'll say this to folks, bike parts do wear out over time. And yeah, I completely rebuilt my Brompton 2 summers ago, prior to my 2024 European tour. Or no, just after, because people were teasing me about, I had a squeak in there, and I had to replace my pivot bolt at the Brompton Junction in Amsterdam. And so I got that squeak done, but that was like a sign to me that, yeah, you probably, this has been like 13 years. You probably need to rebuild this bike. And I did. So that was fantastic. Is there anything that we haven't discussed yet that you want to share with the audience about the Brompton and how versatile this is for, people around the globe, in terms of, helping with what we were talking about earlier, shift some of those trips that could easily be shifted to a bike?
Yeah, I think I think all I would say is, like, if anyone's on the fence, like, it's something that they've maybe considered they might do, but they're not quite sure, I would encourage people to test ride one. We do a program called Brompton Borough, which is kind of a longer test ride. So you can take the bike home with you and really experience living with it. And we do that out of our Washington DC Junction store as well. But I would really encourage people to go to any retailer that sells Brompton and do a test ride and really try it out, because I think that gives you a really good feel for how you can live with it and how it rides, but also if there's any intimidation around, how to fold it or anything like that, you can overcome that as well. So I would say if you're on the fence about it, give it a go and test ride. You don't have to commit, but I think that would be my one bit of advice. And then, I can just sort of talk from my own experience of the days that I bike into the office, I genuinely feel happier and more productive and more focused. So, and I think as a life hack, I love the fact that I'm managing to integrate some exercise into my commute time, particularly if you're a busy parent and a professional, and I think it's one of the best kept secrets in terms of a life hack, a daily life hack.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. Juliet Scott-Croxford, thank you so much for joining me on the Active Towns podcast. This has been absolutely fabulous, and can't wait
nice to meet you.
Yeah, can't wait to ride with you in person.
Me too. We'll get on our bikes together next time. We'll have to do that.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Juliet Scott-Croxford. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and share it with a friend. And if you haven't done so already, be honored to have you subscribe to the channel. Just click on the subscribe button down below and ring that notifications bell. And if you're enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, again, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Again, I simply could not produce this content without your financial support. We just are not earning that much money here on YouTube. Sorry to say. Sorry, YouTube. So your financial support, either on a monthly basis or one-time donation, is really, really much appreciated. It's easy to do. You can just join the YouTube memberships right here on the YouTube environment. You can also leave a YouTube super thanks. It's like a tip. Or you can navigate over to activetowns.org, click on the support tab at the top of the page, and there's several different options, including becoming a Patreon supporter. Patrons also get early and ad-free access to all the video content, as well as you can make a donation to the nonprofit, or you can buy me a coffee. Well, that's it for now. So until next time, this is John signing off by wishing you much activity, health, and happiness. Cheers. And again, just want to send a huge thank you to all my Active Towns ambassadors supporting the channel financially via YouTube memberships, YouTube super thanks, as well as making contributions to the nonprofit and joining my Patreon. Every little bit adds up and is very much appreciated. Thank you all so much.